right-hand side of the Microsoft Teams window, and I will come to you in the order I receive requests. Please do not use your microphone until I invite you to do so. Please also do not use the chat button, as on Teams we cannot clear any text on the meeting recording as we could when we were previously using Skype for meetings. Please lower your hand once you finish speaking. Officers from Democratic Services will be supporting the meeting and will be monitoring the use of microphones throughout the meeting, and where necessary will mute those not being used. Before we formally commence, I will now ask the officer from Democratic Services to announce the names of the councillors in attendance at this meeting. I would also ask the officers to introduce themselves as and when I invite them to speak during the course of the meeting. Officers too should ensure microphones and cameras are switched off when not in use. Mark, please.
Thank you, Leader. In attendance today, we have Councillor Andrew Williams, Councillor Jefferson Tilsley, Councillor Kerry Reeves, Councillor Sherry Jones, Councillor Christine Taylor, Councillor Altaf Hussain, Councillor Brian Jones, Councillor Charles Smith, Councillor Keith Edwards, Councillor Hugh David, Chairperson, Councillor John Paul Blundell, Councillor Ken Watts, Councillor Richard Young, Councillor Sadie Vidal, Councillor Sorrel Dendy. Give me a sec, I've had some messages come up that's obscuring my names. Councillor Stephen Smith, Councillor David Evans, Councillor David Unwin, Councillor Gary Chappell, Councillor Hillier Rakes, Councillor Jonathan Pratt, Councillor Martin Jones. There's a few clerks as well, your Leader, that are observing, but they can participate as well in the spirit of the forum. I think, Leader, bear with me, I think that is it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mark. Can I receive any?
Sorry, Leader. Can I come back in?
I
think I've missed a few out. Let's have a look. No. That's it. As we were. Thank you.
As we were. Good. Thank you, Mark. Have we had any apologies for absence, please, Mark?
None today, Leader. No.
None today. And do I have any from the virtual floor? I can see that Councillor Blundell has raised his virtual hand. Councillor Blundell, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just to give the apologies of Councillor Brahi Sedgby.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Blundell. If there are no other apologies for absence, I will now move on to declarations of interest and any items on the agenda from members and officers. Are there any declarations of interest, please, that members or officers would like to make? Okay, well, I cannot see that anyone has indicated that they want to do so, but if during the course of the meeting you believe that you do have a declaration of interest to make, please do indicate when you think that you need to. The first report on the agenda for today's meeting is the outcome of the consultation Fit for the Future. And we will now receive a report from the Interim Chief Officer, Finance and Performance and Change, Jill Lewis, our Section 151 officer. And I believe that Jill can also be joined by our Consultation and Engagement Manager, Nick Bunston. So very warm welcome to Jill and Nick, please. Over to you, Jill. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. For the purposes of the recording, Jill Lewis, Interim Chief Officer, Finance, Performance and Change. I'll be very brief in introduction and then hand over to Nick, who will take you through, as she does at this time of year, some of the findings from this year's consultation. I just wanted to say, I know Nick will build on this, but it was a very important year in many respects to look at our budget consultation. I know we always do the budget consultation in a very thorough way in Bridgends, but when we came to think about the budget consultation this year, we were right deep in the middle of the pandemic, as we very much still are, and it just felt that we were asking similar questions in the middle of a global pandemic that we'd asked previously. And we sat down and thought, how can we make this much more relevant? How can we learn lessons from what's going on? And how do we think about shaping our services for the future? So it was quite a different consultation this year for a number of different reasons that Nick will elaborate on. So we tried to be very much more innovative and different in terms of shaping services rather than just asking about pure cost. So Nick, perhaps you could elaborate on that.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Leader. For the purposes of the recording, my name is Nick Bunston. I am the Consultation, Engagement and Equality Manager. So I'll go through the report, and as Jill said, at points through the report we'll pick up on kind of why we changed the consultation and what was different about the consultation. But it's probably worth starting with a thank you really to town and community councils who, in the same way as we have for the last couple of years, engaged really well with us to make sure that this consultation was shared as widely as possible with our communities. And we attended several town and community council meetings virtually to try to ensure that people were aware of the consultation and that we spread the message about the consultation being live. So the purpose of this report is to present to yourselves, the Town and Community Council Forum, a copy of the outcome of the Fit for the Future consultation report, which you will find at Appendix B, that was presented to Cabinet on the 19th of January 2021. So this is just an information report for you. So the Fit for the Future consultation 2020, as Jill has already said, was very different to what we delivered before, where we asked about either cuts or savings to very specific services. During the pandemic, we didn't think that that was wholly appropriate, and we made the decision that we were going to come from a very different angle for this consultation to ask people about what had been important to them during the pandemic, what services they had accessed during the pandemic, if any, how they had found that, so how the council had performed in being able to access services and in providing services, and what people thought were our priorities as we start to think about the future and kind of come out of the pandemic at hopefully the other end. So the consultation led on from many other budget consultations that we've had that we've been running now for several years. But ordinarily we would call the consultation Shaping Bridgends' Future, and we would use kind of a particular branding, and this year we completely changed that and called it Fit for the Future, and changed how the survey looked and felt and how we promoted it. So the public consultation was undertaken over an 8-week period from the 19th of October through to the 13th of December, and we asked residents to share their views on a range of areas, including responding to the COVID-19 pandemic, business and the economy, health and well-being, customer access to civic offices, digitalisation, council tax levels and the future. So as you know, the budget consultation has been going since around 2013-14. And in this consultation, we built on the knowledge that we'd already gained in previous consultations, as well as Jill said, the current situation and the current crisis that we were facing, and thought about a different way really to engage the public rather than ask direct questions about services. So we used a variety of communication methods, including the surveys, social media, a number of online engagement sessions, online frequently asked questions, as well as video, radio adverts and media releases. We were really conscious during this consultation that we weren't going to be able to get out and about into the community as we ordinarily do. So you'll remember last year during our budget consultations, so not the 2021, the 2019 one, Andrew and I were out and about in our communities pretty much every day on evenings and weekends to try and engage our communities. We ran citizens panel engagement sessions. We were in our libraries and leisure centres. We came along to town and community council meetings to engage with you. And we had all of that planned again, but unfortunately we needed to run this consultation from kind of this side of the computer screen, which was very different in terms of trying to engage with people. But we continued to try to ensure that whoever wanted to take part in the consultation was able to. So we produced several different versions of the survey, large print, easy read and youth versions of the survey, as well as the standard version, all available in Welsh and English, all available online and paper. And we also produced an advert in the Glamorgan Gazette notifying non-domestic ratepayers of the consultation. So we sent copies of the consultation to all of our citizens panel members, either via an email link or a paper copy, depending on which method they preferred. We also engaged with young people, so we sent the consultation to all of our comprehensive schools and Bridgend College and asked them to engage their learners in the consultation, as well as school staff and parents and carers. And we also went along to the Bridgend Youth Council meeting on the 24th of November, where we engaged our Youth Council members in some key questions and then encouraged them to complete the full consultation online. So we tried to reach the key stakeholders, the kind of the general public and our residents, our citizens panel members, elected members. So all elected members received an email to let them know that the consultation was live. We used our Bridgenders messaging to make sure all BCBC employees were aware of the consultation, Bridgend businesses, town and community councils, school governors, Bridgend Community Cohesion and Equality Forum, as well as our partners such as Arwen Halo and Barvo. So we tried to be as far-reaching as possible, but bearing in mind, ordinarily we'd be in our comprehensive schools, we'd be out and about, and we obviously couldn't do that this year. So bearing that in mind, in order to support the consultation, we had a full communication and promotional plan, and we produced 3 media releases, a BCBC budget explainer video, various press releases and editorials in the media, a social media and web campaign, radio campaign, direct marketing to key audiences, and we also produced 4 additional videos as well as the explainer video, which featured our youth mayor, our chief executive, our leader and our deputy leader. And we tried to space them through the consultation, again, to encourage participation so that people were aware of the consultation at key points in the process. And then we also created some Twitter polls. So we used Facebook and Twitter a lot during the consultation, again, to make sure people were aware of key dates and what was going on. But we also created some Twitter polls to try and generate, again, some interest and ask key questions that people could vote on and then go on to complete the full consultation. In addition to all of that, we also sent the Fit for the Future consultation link out in our Gov Delivery bulletins. So Gov Delivery's got over 37,000 subscribers, and we sent the consultation out in a Gov Delivery specific message, which generated 1,839 clicks through to the budget consultation page. So we thought that was really successful. It's something that we haven't done in the past, and it's something we'll continue into the future. So definitely some lessons learned there about how to ensure that we get the message out to our communities. So taking you down to section 4 of the report, you have got a copy of the report that was presented to Cabinet on the 19th of January at Appendix A, and you've got a copy of the full consultation report at Appendix B. So this item may have looked very long. I think I've got 70 odd pages altogether, but it is those 2 appendices, which are quite long reports. But just to give you a couple of the headline figures, which are in Appendix A, overall, people thought we responded well to the pandemic. So in terms of communication, customer service and support for business, and support for communities, overall respondents thought we had done well. Business and the economy, respondents stated that support for local businesses was very important, and that we should support the visitor economy activity, and support for our tourist attractions again was very important. Health and well-being, again, people thought that support for older people was important, homeless people, and those in food poverty. When asking about customer access to civic offices, 81% of respondents said that they hadn't missed coming into Civic while it had been closed, and the majority of respondents said that they had used the website, telephone or email to contact us. 41% of respondents said that they didn't think it should be a priority to reopen civic offices, and 60% of respondents told us that even when we do reopen, we should move to an appointment-based system. So that's some interesting statistics there. When looking at council tax levels, 37% of respondents told us that they would be happy to increase council tax slightly, so by 4.5%, to help protect the most important services. And 36% of respondents told us that they wanted council tax levels to remain the same. So they're just some of the headline figures that are in the 2 reports, Appendix A and Appendix B, but obviously you can look at those in much greater detail throughout those 2 reports. So just to give you some detail on interactions, so overall we received 1,831 interactions from a combination of survey completions, engagement at various meetings, social media engagement and via the Authority Citizens Panel. And in the table at 4.3, you can see how those interactions are broken down. We do, however, acknowledge that there was a significant difference this year in our interactions from the previous year. So we saw a 75% decrease in overall interactions from the 2019 consultation, and a decrease of 58% on survey completions from the 2019 consultation. We had expected that, we had anticipated it, and through key stages in the consultation, we were measuring interactions and survey completions and trying to use social media and the press to encourage people to participate. But we, still happy that we received 1,831 interactions overall. So going down to the recommendation is that the Town and Community Council Forum receives and considers this report alongside the detailed reports attached as both Appendix A and Appendix B. And just a final thank you to all of those who did participate. We know that agendas were very full, and we did ask if we could come along to your Town and Community Council meetings, and we did have a great response. So thank you to those that participated and shared the consultation with your communities. That is really important to us, that we get that message out to our communities as much as we can. So thank you.
Okay. Nick and Jill, that's a really helpful overview of the report, and I'd also like to add my thanks to those town and community councils that were able to find the time to take part in the consultation. We really appreciate it. Okay, I'll now ask if there's any questions or comments that members would like to ask about the report. No? There's a recommendation there that the forum notes that the report Is there a member that would like to move that recommendation?
Formally move, Chair.
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you. I believe that was Councillor Granville, seconded by Councillor Blundell. Is everyone in agreement with that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much to both Jill and Nick. If you do have any questions about the consultation, then please don't hesitate to get in touch with either Jill or Nick. They'd be very happy to answer any questions or queries that you have. And also next year, of course, we hope that we're in a position where once again we can meet and see people face to face, and we look forward to undertaking that consultation with our partners in the town and community councils once again in person. So thank you both for your attendance, and we will now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Bridgend Town Centre Regeneration Master Plan consultation and our engagement with the town and community councils. And we have a report from the Group Manager for Strategic Regeneration, Delyth Webb, and that will be followed by a presentation from Shruti Guruswamy from BDP. So a very warm welcome, croeso to Delyth and Shruti. And I will hand over to Delyth to introduce the report. Thank you both. Delyth, I think you're on mute, Delyth.
I am. Am I on camera? I hope.
You're on camera and we can hear you loud and clearly. Can everyone else hear Delyth? Yeah, okay. Yeah. Carry on, please.
If I could just introduce myself, I'm Delyth Webb. I'm the Group Manager for Strategic Regeneration, and I will give you a brief run through of a report that's previously circulated before introducing Shruti, who will far more eloquently than I will take you through a presentation prepared for the purposes of engagement on the Town Centre Master Plan. The purpose of this report is to inform the Town and Community Council Forum of the proposed master plan for Bridgend Town Centre and of the public consultation exercise which has been running since December the 6th. The report is also to introduce yourselves to a presentation from BDP, the consultants who have been supporting the authority in the preparation of the plan and the consultation exercise. If I just take you through the report, the background to the master plan. The master plan was commissioned in February 2020. We managed to squeeze in the first engagement exercise just the week before lockdown started, and so BDP have led us through the full consultation exercise during the pandemic. The master plan itself has been commissioned as a key strategic document for the authority to help us to provide structure to taking forward significant investment within the town centre. The BDP, the commission's been led by BDP consultants, and they supported by a team consisting of Asbury Planning, Cook and Arkwright, and Phil Jones Associates. The purpose of the plan, as I said, is to build on many strengths that the town centre has. It's to support and incorporate mixed-use regeneration within the centre. The previous master plan that we have was very retail focused, and over the last 10 years, the nature of retail and the nature of activity within the town centre has changed significantly, and arguably the necessity for the master plan is now greater than ever, as we want to ensure that we've got some significant backing to economic resilience and to taking the town centre and the economy out of the pandemic. The document itself will support long-term planning. It's set out as a theoretical layout and a guide to regeneration. But what that does do is provide us with a significant amount of work that supports investment going forward. It also complements the local development plan and the work that's ongoing in the review of that. As part of the master plan exercise, as I mentioned, there's been an extensive stakeholder engagement process that sits behind this. It started in February last year, and that stakeholder engagement has included discussion and consultation with a number of local organisations, landowners. Bridgend Town Council themselves have previously been engaged, both at consultation and previously in the initial fact-finding stage. There's a number of government authorities being consulted and relevant working groups that operate within the town centre. As I mentioned, in December 2020, the master plan was finalised, and it has been out to public consultation since the 6th of December, and the consultation process will complete on March the 1st, 2021. If I move on to the proposal, the town centre master plan itself, as I said, is out for public consultation. The vision brings together trying to incorporate enterprise, employment, education, continue to promote in-town living, continue to promote shopping and culture, and to also integrate tourism and well-being into what is a historic setting. I won't dwell too much on the remainder of the proposal, because I think, again, the presentation will provide you with a much greater understanding, provide you with much greater detail in terms of what the master plan is trying to achieve. But in short, it's identified 8 development zones within the town centre. There are 23 significant projects identified within those zones, but what that doesn't do is exclude some other projects that can come forward, which respond to to growth, to resilience, well-being, and identity within the town centre itself. So it certainly doesn't preclude any further projects or interventions and investment from coming forward within the town. If I move on quickly, this is the final engagement session, formal engagement session that the officers are conducting prior to the closure of the consultation period. So what we would like to ensure is that the Town and Community Council forums have had the opportunity to look at the plan and to receive a presentation on that. We will also be providing the Town and Community Council forum with an electronic link to the consultation exercise and to an explainer video as part of that, which will be able to, you will be much better informed at being able to take to participate in that consultation exercise. In terms of effect on policy and framework, equality's impact within the authority, etc. As things stand, the master plan is a document that officers and the authority will be using to inform its work going forward. And as things stand, it is not policy. However, we will be looking in the very near future to integrate this within the new LDP as supplementary guidance, at which point it will obviously have a greater policy weighting. There are no financial implications to the authority or to other organisations from the master plan. What the master plan does do is set out a number of key projects and investment opportunities and interventions, which do in themselves have financial obligations, but the master plan itself doesn't hold any organisation or the authority to completing those. So there's no financial impact to on the basis of the document itself. And finally, on section 9, in terms of recommendations, certainly this report recommends that the Town and Community Council Forum receives and considers this report and gives consideration to engaging in the consultation period, and that the Town and Community Council Forum notes and receives a presentation from BDP consultants to support the consultation exercise. I think at that point, thank you, Leader. I think it might be worth passing on to Shruti, and if I can make a brief introduction to Shruti. Shruti, this is actually her last day working for BDP consultants. I would say that the authority has seen her off, but I don't think that is the case. I think Shruti is going on to bigger and better things, but this is her last day working for BDP. They've provided us with an excellent support in developing this master plan. Yeah, if I just pass on to Shruti, she'll be able to take you through the visuals and the documents as part of that consultation process. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for that useful overview and introduction. And I'm very, very sad to hear that Shruti is leaving BDP, no doubt for bigger and better things. But you have indeed provided first-class support to Bridgend, and I haven't got time now to send you a virtual gift even, but I am sure you'll do well wherever you're going, Shruti. But over to you before you do leave your final presentation. I expect, or at least if not your final, one of your final presentations, Shruti, please.
Thank you, Dalit, and thank you, Leader. I think I've had a great time working with BCBC. Everybody at the council we have done this as the lockdown master plan, and it's turned out to be quite transformative, or hopefully it'll be very transformative for Bridgend. It is my last week, but the last presentation I'll be doing for Bridgend Council on this, and I'm joined by my colleague, Martin Jones. For some reason, he was introduced as a councillor. No, that's my colleague, Martin Jones, our Director for Landscape and Urbanism, who has joined us. And yes, so thank you for the wonderful introduction there. So I'll be taking you, everybody, through the executive summary document and going through the proposals in a bit more detail. I understand that everybody is has a copy of the executive summary document, so you would have already familiarized yourself with the proposals, but I'll delve into some more detail and the kind of concepts and proposals we've been thinking for the town centre. So if I may share my screen, please let me know if you can all see my screen. Leader, maybe you can confirm if you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Yeah, I can see it.
Thank you. So in terms of an overview, Del's already told you all about the Master Plan Commission and how we were commissioned sometime this time last year, in fact, and we've been working on this master plan pretty much for 9 months, and then in December it went in for consultation. In terms of the master plan boundary itself, the red line boundary you see here on the plan, that is the master plan boundary, which is less than 1 square kilometre. So that includes Bridgend Town Centre, the bus station, the railway station side, all the way up to Tremaines Road, Cheapside, going down to Asta, and Knowlton Street, Murthamar Road, part of River Ogmore, Sunnyside, up to Newbridge Fields, then Newcastle Hill, and then going up to Rugby Club. So it's quite an extensive site study area boundary that we were given, which also includes 3 major conservation areas. So much of the town centre is within the Bridgend Town Centre Conservation Area. There's the Murthamar Road Conservation Area and the Newcastle Hill Conservation Area. And the other aspects we had to also consider is about the bypass roads, which are actually dividing the western part of Bridgend Town from or separating it from the town centre, and that is the A4063 and then the A4061 to the north, which basically are serving as bypass roads for any commuters from, let's say, between the Valley, Swansea to Cardiff. So Bridgend Town Centre is pretty much unrecognised for a large part of it. So moving on to, sorry, please hold on that I can reload this document. There's a problem with my connection, so yeah. So moving on to our stakeholder consultation, and I'm not going to delve into too much detail within this. I'm just going to touch upon the key themes or key aspects that were communicated to us. So one was about placemaking and identity, that when people think of Bridgend, it's more Bridgend County that they take into account and not the town itself. And what kind of identity would we like to provide for Bridgend? Could we use heritage as a USP to kind of recreate a new identity for Bridgend? That was also the question about how we will have we need to consider how we would have sensitive interventions in the town centre, considering most of it is within the conservation area itself. Then in terms of regeneration and development, there were certain sites that were identified. So that was about railway station area and railway station and the surrounding area not performing to its full potential and how we could utilize those sites better. Then Wyndham Street, which lacks presentation and how it could be improved, and how the urban block around Wyndham Street itself could be relooked at. Cheapside, which there have been discussions about potential relocation of Bridgend College to Cheapside, which is something we have looked at as well as part of master plan. Then around former Lone Stewart site and how the railway station area could be connected to town centre and Cheapside better. Then the YMCA site, then Clinfee Lane. So all of different regeneration sites that were actually thrown into the mix. The other key issue that was raised during the consultation phase is also about the town centre retail. So the spread out town centre retail and how we could consolidate and shrink it better, and re-looking at these two major shopping centres within Bridgend. So one is the Bridgend Shopping Centre and the main one is the Daru Shopping Centre, and how we could consolidate to have a primary retail core within the town centre itself. Then the next one is about increasing residential living. So the Rue housing development on Rue Hill is seen as quite a positive development in terms of creating footfall within the town centre and also promoting Eyes in the Street concept and bringing more people to the town centre itself. And the master plan also explores how we could introduce more living and housing opportunities within the town centre. The other key issue is about lack of open space within the town centre itself. So the master plan is also looking at how we could increase open space and dwell areas and improve public realms, so kind of creating this robust green infrastructure network, but also kind of connecting series of open space within the town centre. Then there were issues raised in terms of access, permeability and legibility, because the town centre itself is has quite dense urban fabric, and how this can be broken down and how we could make those specific interventions within the town centre to improve the permeability and legibility of town centre. The main one being the legibility and accessibility between the bus station and the railway station. There were different options considered on how we could create this multimodal transport experience, and the master plan is looking to address the same. Other issues about transport infrastructure, we did recognize that car is a primary mode of travel, but how do we also increase more public transport facilities, and how do we improve the public transport within the area and active travel as well to make sure that we promote sustainable transport in the future, or enable sustainable transport in the future. The other issues we've also looked at that were raised were about flood risk. Bridgend, I must say this is less of an issue for Bridgend, because Bridgend does very well in terms of flood risk in general, or it has better flood mitigation. But there is a situation where in 1 in 1,000 year scenario, there could, and including climate change, that there could be potential flood risk in the area, and how that could be mitigated further is also something we've looked at. In terms of general safety, this is something we also consulted with South Wales Police to understand the general issues around safety or perception of safety in the town centre. I think the town centre performs poorly in terms of having more issues of antisocial behaviour and how this could be improved. And it all ties back into having the right kind of public realm, accessibility, permeability, and the right kind of users, and having more residential users to increase footfall. That means that you're having more like just not a daytime economy, but also promoting nighttime economy, thus improving safety within the city itself. The other aspect that was also raised was car parking within the city. That is to do with people did think that there is less car parking within the town. And from our study, Phil Jones Associates, who are transport consultants on this, did comment that the parking within the town centre was sufficient, but it was scattered around the town centre. That meant that we could also have a parking strategy which consolidates the car parking in the right locations, closer to transport hubs or major attractions within the town centre, so that we would create a more, it would work as part of the integrated mobility network we are looking at. And that would also mean that we could reopen some of the town centre streets, namely Queen Street, then Raven Place and Market Street, for flexible vehicular access. So we also create a circuit. So it does feel like a more permeable town centre for travel. So coming down to the vision, and Delit's already introduced the vision, but there are two parts to this vision. One is establishing Bridgend Town Centre, or Bridgend Town as a county town, because it is the administrative and civic capital, I would say, for Bridgend County, which also has major healthcare facility in terms of Princess of Wales Hospital. So and it also has the 5th busiest train station in Wales. So it already has the elements to function as a county town, and the vision is looking to establish this, re-establish this as a county town. But also the second part of the vision is also about creating a livable and vibrant town centre for people. So at one aspect, it works as a county town on a regional level, where it contributes as a regional hub to the South Wales economy. But just as a town, it also is livable and vibrant, which actually underpins a mixed economy approach where it combines enterprise, employment, education, in-town living, culture, tourism within this wider historic setting. And to achieve this vision, we have identified 4 themes, or placemaking themes, as we call it. That is one of growth, where we are looking at fostering investment in enterprise, learning and living. That is to support growth. Then there is resilience, where we are looking at creating a resilient network, or resilient town centre, which has integrated mobility, infrastructure, and a circular economy. 3 is about well-being, how we improve local and regional well-being through more social cohesion and linkages. That is provision of more open spaces, let's say, for example, and enriching biodiversity as much as possible. Then 4 is about identity, which is the core theme about how it ties in all the other 3 themes together, is to build on the heritage assets within the town centre, and how we could establish this not only as a county town, but it also has a strong sense of place, cultural identity, and an attractive setting. So these 4 themes are largely tied to 10 master plan objectives, which are reflected throughout the master plan and various development zones, which Delit already touched upon, which I'll come to in a minute. So the 10 master plan objectives. So under growth, we have urban living and creating more intergenerational communities. We have creating more enterprise space within the town centre, a learning hub directly tied into Bridgend College relocation. Under resilience, we have energy and renewables. Bridgend's one of the first town in Wales to have a lower carbon district heat network, or they have a pilot project to undertake that. So we're looking to capitalize on that and also extend phase 2 to town centre with the college or the bus station as an anchor building for it. Then the 5th objective is mixed economy. It's about fostering a mixed economy approach. Like I said, combination of business, education, retail, leisure, and cultural uses, all supported through in-town living. Then the 6th one is about integrated and sustainable mobility. What we do recognize through the master plan is that we need to combine all 5 modes of travel. Of course, we would like to prioritize them differently. So active travel should take a good amount of priority, but we also understand that needs to be connected very well to public transport hubs. That's the bus station, train station, and all of these are still linked to the parking areas, and car is also a mode of travel that we've integrated within this transport strategy. Then the 7th objective is about green-blue infrastructure. It's about creating this robust network of streets and open spaces. So we want to create a town center for all, and which promotes also inclusive design. So it is about creating dwell spaces which are family friendly, which actually which will support events, which will support nighttime economy. So all of these are weaved together through green links and sustainable drainage system within the town center. Then the 8th is also about open spaces and community hotspots, very much draws from bringing the links to green-blue infrastructure's objective. And this is also to create positive interaction, because town centers are not your retail destinations anymore. They've been changing for a while, and COVID-19 has basically confirmed that your town center needs to be something more. So it is your place, it's your destination which you want to go and visit and spend time with your family, or it will still have aspects of retail, but it is more a place that we're trying to, a more comprehensive and holistic place that we are trying to create. The 9th is about heritage-based placemaking. What Bridgend could, what we are looking at is, with all these interventions, what we could also improve the existing wayfinding and signage system and link them to heritage assets within the town center. So a more heritage theme-based placemaking that will be undertaken within. Then the 10th one is about events and culture. There is Carnegie Hall. There's Carnegie House, which is used as an event space, but we're looking at how we could expand that within the town center and within this historic setting. So this is the master plan for the next decade. And as it was mentioned before, there are 23 regeneration projects, which are definitely phased as per short term, medium term, and longer term. And there are 6, I would say, site-wide regeneration schemes, which could come as part of these projects, or could be standalone projects, standalone schemes, which can be developed over the period of different phases. And these 23 regeneration projects are within 8 development zones. So moving on to the 8 development zones here. So we've divided the town center into 8 development zones. Now, so development zone A is around the railway station area, which has Tremaines Road, which has the railway station building, Clinfee Lane, at the Lone Stewart side, all the way going up to Derwent Road, Station Hill, and Court Road. Then development zone B is Brackla, Knowlton, and Oldcastle, which has Cheapside, has Knowlton Street, Merthyr Mawr Road, and the existing Bridgend Shopping Centre and Asda. Then development zone C is the retail core, which is an approach we've undertaken to consolidate the retail core or primary retail core to Adair Street, Caroline Street, Rue Shopping Centre, and the northern half of Knowlton Street. Development zone D is the cafe and cultural quarter, which we are calling the heart of Bridgend, which is around Dunraven Place, the western part of Wyndham Street, western part of Market Street, and also includes Elder Street and Wyndham Arms Hotel. Then there is development zone E, which is Northern Gateway area, which is looking at which has the bus station, Ravenscourt offices, Tesco, Embassy car park. There's eastern part of Wyndham Street and northern part of Derwent Road and eastern part of Market Street as well. That is more of Northern Gateway site is about improving one of the gateways, the most important gateways to the town center as well. Then we have development zone F, which is looking at Riverside, which has the rear of the properties on Dunraven Place and Queen Street. Then the new Rue housing development, the civic officers side, YMCA side, and just the Riverside itself. Then there's development zone G, which is Newcastle, which is looking at basically including the Newcastle suburb that is to the northwest of the town centre. And then there's Development Zone H, which is Sunnyside, which includes Newbridge Fields, the new wellness village in Sunnyside and Sunnyside Road. And it is also potentially looking at an extent a suburb of the town centre as well, or more like the inner city suburb. So like I mentioned, there are 23 regeneration projects within these 10 development zones. Some of these projects definitely are high priority, like we had mentioned, and there are projects which are divided into short term, medium term, and longer term. So some of the short to medium term projects, which we are looking at as key projects and more transformative projects for Bridgend Town Centre regeneration in the next decade are the railway station area redevelopment, which has like high projects around it. So one is about redeveloping Clinfee Lane, then providing a new entrance from Tremaines Road or from east of the railway station. So this will be a new vehicular and pedestrian entrance to the eastern part of the railway station building. So that means that we are looking to flip the vehicular entrance, and you will have the vehicular entrance through Tremaines Road coming in, which will have this new station forecourt, a taxi drop-off, and your car parking facilities. And that will be to the east, and the western part is mostly to do with pedestrian and cycle focus. So this will be transformed to more having active travel links and more station retail facilities that will provide a more attractive entrance to the town centre from the railway station. The other opportunities we're also looking at is bringing or repurposing these existing vacant buildings. That is the old post office building and 14 to 18 Court Road, so bringing in co-working spaces in that area. The other important project that we are looking at is also creating an active travel link between the railway station building and Brackla Street going down to Cheapside. So this would be a very important link between the railway station and number 8, which is going to be Bridgend College relocation, the police station site. So that will be a key link to ensure that the town railway station is accessible from both north, south, west, and then it's also going on to east. So we are trying to create a railway station which is accessible from all ends. The other key projects we're also looking at is increasing employment within the town centre. So number 10 has been identified as a potential more medium to long-term project which will have an employment hub. Because this is a council-owned site, we're thinking of maybe bringing it forward as well. And there are additional options appraisals that are ongoing, which are looking at having an employment space on project site 10. The key projects within the area is creating a new town square. So this is something, like I said, it's a cafe and cultural quarter, and we want to re-establish the heart of Bridgend in that area. So Dunraven Place, that has the war memorial, has so much history to it, and we are trying to create a town square at the back of it through demolition of Wyndham House and Cambrian House. So part of those two sites will be town square, and there will also be a mixed-use development that will be brought into place. At the back of the town square, we also want to improve the cultural hub. So there are vacant properties on Wyndham Street, which are adjacent to Carnegie House. So that's something we're looking at, extending the cultural hub from Carnegie House to neighboring properties, bringing the chapel into focus and the Poco Poco restaurant area, altogether creating a cultural hub in the area. Coming on to Northern Gateway, which we also think is very key to the development, because it is one of your first impressions of the town centre as a user of car, or even if you're walking into the town centre or cycling in. So that gateway there needs to be redeveloped, and we are looking at strategic demolitions to the east, to some of the eastern properties within the eastern block of Wyndham Street. That is to say, we are retaining large part of that building, the eastern block, and there will be some strategic demolitions that will be conducted for this area, and bringing this Dunraven Arms Hotel, which is vacant, as a focal feature, potentially converted as residential, and focal feature or this landmark, which you will look at when you will enter the town centre. We're also thinking of, in the longer term, looking at a gateway hotel on the basically fronting A4061. So all of that together will formulate the Northern Gateway experience. Coming on to the riverside interventions, so there is Project 17, where, like I mentioned, Bridgend generally does quite well in a 1 in a 100-year flood risk scenario, but in a 1 in a 1,000-year flood risk scenario with climate change, there is a bit of flooding that might occur. So there have been recommendations to reconfigure this Weir 1 within River Ogmore. So that is also one of the key riverside projects, something which is a short-term win as well. The other interventions we're looking at is improving the gateway experience from the river. So it could be the western or southern gateway. One of them is looking at this YMCA site, which could be redeveloped as more landmark housing scheme. Then also using the upper floors of Dunraven Place and Queen Street properties to create more high quality housing within the town center, which can capture views to the river and the hills. So all of these generally are the major projects we are looking at. There are smaller interventions like bringing in, more targeted housing conversions within the town center itself, and that will be subject to internal assessment and feasibility of those buildings. The other key project, which is not something we've listed as a project, but we are looking at it as a site-wide regeneration scheme, is opening up the vehicular access circuit here on Market Street, Dunraven Place, and Queen Street, the brown-filled road, which you see here. So this is something that needs more study and more consultation to understand what are the specific times we can open the street for vehicular access and how it would be suitable. Because during COVID-19, there are initiatives that have been undertaken by multiple authorities and also Bridgend to increase the public open space and widen the public realm of the city. So this seems almost counterintuitive, but we also want to keep an option open where we have some kind of potential vehicular access to these streets. But that, like I said, it needs more study and consultation to understand what would be a suitable way to do it. Coming on to some of the visuals of the key projects I was talking about. This is in terms of creating a new railway station entrance. So this is a view you would see from a more an aspirational view from Tremaines Road. So potentially there could be an extension building that is built to the railway station with ticketing facilities at this end. There'll be entrance to Tremaines Business Park and potentially an extension to Tremaines Business Park to kind of create an employment interface with the railway station. There'll be minor station retail facilities on either side, just for your everyday station user. There'll be a potential mixed-use block and some residential as well. There are options appraisal we are looking at to create this transit-oriented development around the train station. And also what we're trying to do is shift, like I said, shift the vehicular access, primary vehicular access from the west from the west to the east of the railway station. So that is the station drop-off facilities and the taxi rank and station short stay parking services and even the long stay parking services all move to the east. And there is a bus stop which will have shuttle bus services to the bus station, town center, and Cheapside. So it still works in the principle of creating this multimodal transport hub. The other aspirational view we have is of the western entrance, that is the current entrance to Bridgend railway station. So this is Station Hill Court Road turning, and what we are looking at is reclaiming that space back for pedestrians and cyclists from the car and creating this attractive public realm and attractive pedestrian entrance, which has high quality public realm, and also creating some kind of station retail frontage, more an active frontage with smaller food and drink facilities, potentially some kind of A2 professional services, all in all working part of this transit-oriented development. What we're also exploring, and this is part of the options appraisal, is to create this public link across the railway line to connect the communities to the east directly to the town center. So one of the options could be to look at the existing pedestrian bridge or potentially bringing in a public link. So these are all things we are looking at in consulting with TFW and Network Rail to see how feasible these things are. The other visual we have is for the new town square. Like I mentioned, this is definitely one of the transformational projects for Bridgend Town Centre, apart from the railway station area being developed and Bridgend College. This is key to make sure that this functions as the heart of Bridgend Town Centre, and we increase dwell spaces within the historic core, so it attracts more people and it's more family friendly. We're looking at potential town square here through demolition of Wyndham House and have more mixed use facilities, but also link it to the more cultural hub extension and Wyndham Arms Hotel and this wonderful historic setting of the Dunraven Place that's already there. The other visual we have is of Northern Gateway and Northern Gateway experience that we've tried to recreate in terms of bringing Dunraven Arms Hotel, which is currently vacant, potentially could be converted to housing as the focal feature, the landmark feature, which you would see when you enter the town centre from Derwent Road, and also creating a little plaza and more pedestrian priority zone and a landmark, a budget hotel, which is like a more, I would say, medium rise building in the area. Like I said, most of these projects are divided between short, medium, and longer term, something like the railway station area, Bridgend College, Town Square, Cultural Hub. All of these will be your more short to medium term projects. But let's say the budget hotel or creating more housing around the riverside, all of those will definitely fall into the longer term. This also applies to Rue Shopping Center redevelopment because having re-looked at Rue Shopping Center, we do think that we have to consolidate retail to that area, and Rue Shopping Center could be infused with certain housing. And Bridgend Shopping Center itself could also be converted into mixed-use development, which has some retail on the ground floor, but also has housing. But those projects will be more medium to long-term projects because they need quite a bit of work and more coordination with landowners and businesses within the area. That's mostly all the projects. And in terms of the delivery strategy, we are looking at it as a Bridgend County Borough Council-led public sector master plan, which is definitely the need of the hour, also considering that private investments have taken a hit in the COVID-19 lockdown and the economic downturn. So this master plan very much be led by BCBC, and they will be coordinating with various stakeholders and different bodies and working hand in hand with them. And there are several funding opportunities that we have identified and also engaged with Welsh Government and Cardiff Capital Region to ensure that we are identifying projects which are in line with their funding objectives and vision. There are national, like I said, national regional government organizations that BCBC will be working with, environment and heritage agencies, infrastructure authorities like TFW, TFW Rail Services, and Network Rail, whom we are in consultation with in terms of railway station area. The private entities, we are talking to majority landowners and business operators like Tremens Business Park are aware of the scheme, the majority landowners as well, and various private developers and property agents. And there are local and regional bodies, the Bridgend Town Council, the various other town councils we are talking to today, South Wales Police, Bridgend College, RSL, so they're there. And currently there is a public consultation that's ongoing, and where we are consulting with residents of Bridgend, different arts and culture groups, and the Civic Trust as well. So it is very much a collaborative and comprehensive master plan, and something that will need a significant amount of public sector backing and public sector investment to be realized. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Shruti, for that comprehensive presentation as ever. It is a very ambitious plan for our county town, and it's right that we're ambitious. It will require the support of all our partners, will require collaboration, it will require investment, and it will require time as well. I'll bring Councillor Smith in first, as he's indicated, and then Councillor Unwin, and then Councillor Jones. So I'll take questions and comments in rounds of three. Start with those three. Councillor Smith first, then, please.
Thank you, Leader. Just some comments very briefly. And first of all, as Vice Chair of this forum, I have to say thank you to Shruti for all the work she's done on this, and wish her well in her future career. I'm sure she'll be awesome wherever she goes. That's the best word I can think of.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Very kind, I must say.
But just to underline for colleagues that the reason we felt this was an appropriate item for Town and Community Council agenda was basically what Shruti said about the vision for the town of Bridgend as a county town. So if it's going to be a central hub for administration and culture and health and so on, this is something which affects all communities right through our county. I'll say the same thing that I've said in several other meetings, so apologies if you've heard this before, but I don't want people to be panicked by the word master plan. I'm old enough to have some bad connotations with that word. It makes me think of some of the unfortunate master plans that were around in some towns and cities back in the 60s and 70s, where the master plan was to knock everything down and rebuild it with some horrible ugly stuff, or build flyovers over it to drive everybody mad who lived below the flyover. So it isn't that sort of master plan at all. What it is a joined up series of strategies for different places around the town. And the reason for it, basically, I think, is so that we've got a strategic blueprint. Because Bridgend doesn't own the town as such. We are not the major landowners. There are a series of landowners. We have to work with the landowners and with lots of other stakeholders as well. And our contribution will be in the strategizing and also in attempting to draw down the grant funding. And having a master plan built into our development plans and our LDP will make it easier for us to justify grant applications that we make. And having modular interlocking series of strategies around the town mean that depending on the size of the fund available at any particular time and its purposes, we can lock those different visions together to draw down the funding as efficiently as possible. And I think it's turned out that some of the aspects of this master plan are very timely. For example, under COVID, we've learned to value open space much more. So the idea of opening up some space in the town centre, roughly where the much lamented town hall used to be, I think that is an excellent vision. And also bringing education into the town centre, further and higher education. We've seen the problems that we've had now in sending young people all over the country to do their higher education. Well, it would be great for Bridgend to be a university town, a proper university town, and have a presence in the town centre on the Cheapside old police station site for higher education for people who want to shop local for their higher education, and that needs to be an option in the future. That's all, Leader. Over to the next speaker.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Smith, and I'll bring in Councillor Unwin next, please.
Thank you, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, loud and clear.
Right.
Councillor Unwin, thank you.
But can I just reiterate the initial comments of Councillor Smith on the efforts that have been put in over the last 12 months in preparing this master plan, or whatever you wish to call it, actually. The Town Council put in quite a weighty paper last March prior to the shutdown. It is the intention of the Town Council to leave it to individual members to make their own comments on this document in time for the 1st of March. I think the number of possible projects here, 23 has been mentioned, is a fantastic choice to choose from, but clearly they can't all be done at once. But there certainly needs to be as much emphasis on time as possible. From a practical point of view, can we be given any indication, once this consultation ends on the 1st of March, what's the sort of time scale of assimilation before the initial report will come out of what is considered to be likely in the first phases of this development? I would suspect that obviously it depends on funding. I doubt personally, unless you have other information, that we will see any public money coming from Welsh Government this year. So it looks very much as though it's going to be 2022 before any of these projects can get off the ground. Is 2022 the period that we're looking at? Obviously, we need certain things done in the town as quickly as possible, but we've got to be realistic about it. So they're really the first and only basic comments I'm going to make today, but I think we do need some sort of patchwork vision of timescales so that we know what we're aiming for. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Unwin, for the engagement of the Town Council in this process. I'll ask Shruti and Dalith to respond to some of those comments then, please.
Dalith, would you like to comment on the funding applications that are ongoing at the minute?
Yeah, if just without going into detail, I suppose, because we could be here all evening, but I think one of the things to say is that whilst the master plan has been developed out, obviously we've been talking to our Welsh Government colleagues and colleagues from other government organisations and partners, landowners during the process, as Shruti mentioned, and so some of those projects which appear substantial and perhaps are not quick wins as we would normally think. Actually, they're not perhaps quite as far away as we think. So, just an example: the aspiration to bring Bridgend College to the town centre is actually a very realistic proposition. There is some finance potentially allocated towards 21-22 to be able to allow the authority to begin that process with our partner Bridgend College, obviously, and also to start work around the train station propositions. There is also some realistic funding for 21-22, hopefully forthcoming from Welsh Government on that. Again, we've been working quite closely with Transport for Wales and Network Rail. As things stand, they're very willing partners. We want to capitalise on the fact that they are willing partners and that they would support the authority to bring forward conversations on that. So a lot of these projects, whilst you may not see sort of spades in the ground next year, I think what you will see is a significant amount of development work going on some of those major projects. At the same time as that, what we do have accessible to us is smaller scale funding for projects within the master plan, such as greening the town centre. We conversation with the Welsh Government over that sort of green infrastructure that is available in the very short term, as are smaller scale property enhancements, working with some buildings that are known to, you know, without going into detail, but some of the projects that are identified within the plan that are known problematic buildings, we have finance available currently, actually, but into next financial year as well, to be able to tackle some of those properties. So I think it's a combination. You know, we won't see major spades in the ground next year, but it is a combination of development work that will be ongoing and some smaller scale capital work.
Thanks for that, Dalith, and just to reassure all colleagues that a number of these projects are close to are close to a spade in the ground, aren't they, Delith? But as I know Councillor will appreciate, almost all of them involve some sensitive negotiation with
Absolutely.
Commercial landowners, and those negotiations inevitably need to be held confidentially, privately, to ensure that they're successful and to ensure best value for the local authority. But they are ongoing, and we continue to make the case for extra investment in Bridgend town, and we continue to have a sympathetic year, actually, and we'll continue to identify the funding streams that are available, and to make sure we maximise the opportunities that are available, particularly in the recovery phase from COVID-19. I think that response covers all the comments that Councillor Unwin has made. But if not, then please feel free to come back in, Councillor Unwin.
Chair.
Okay.
Leader, if I may add, I think we are also looking at, like I mentioned, options appraisal for employment spaces and the railway station area itself.
Yes.
So we are looking at, like, the railway station area has 5 projects, but we are looking at it as one single development zone and how it could be developed. So there are funding applications which have been submitted to the Welsh Government for further studies. So there are options appraisals which we have completed, but there are also, I think as a next stage, there'll be feasibility studies before you kind of iron out these various development proposals within the master plan itself. But something like Delith was mentioning about quick wins, like you could develop the Publix Plaza at the bottom of Newcastle Hill very quickly, because that will be part of green infrastructure improvements, or even the police station shopfront being relocated to Adair Street. All of those will be quick wins. So there will be some of those. Maybe they're not as transformative as people would expect in 1 or 2 years, but for something that will be more dramatic or more transformative in the next 5 years, let's say around railway station or Bridgend College, I think we need around, I'd say, 3 to 5 years before all of these start taking. Some of these have taken shape, and they're still work in progress in that way.
Okay, thank you, Shruti. Thank you, Delith. I'll bring Councillor Jones in next, please. Councillor Brian Jones.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I'd like to say to Sarita, a very good presentation and good luck in your future employment. My questions are, I think Councillor Unwin has actually jumped in on a few part of mine. Is there any intended start date and completion date? And also, will this be funded at all by the city deal or the capital region deal that we have with Cardiff? And that's about it, really.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Jones. As you've indicated, I think certainly part of that of your question has already been answered. So certainly, I know that colleagues can come in and respond to the point about City Deal, but there are certainly opportunities around City Deal that are being actively explored as we speak. Delith, please.
Yeah, I think the primary thing to say on the City Deal specifically is that they've been engaged in the process with us, not just the consultation process, but the development process in this as well. So they are, their commentary and their aspirations have been aligned to the aspirations that we have within the master plan. So I think that's the most critical thing to say about the City Deal, specifically when we're looking at the projects around the station and the City Deal supported metro projects. That's very, very clearly aligned. They are very supportive of that, of our aspirations, which are not insignificant around that area within the plan. Also, some of the other bigger, larger scale projects, the City Deal are very supportive of. the trouble is obviously they can't sort of guarantee cash, and they can't guarantee their support until we've developed the proposals further. And what we will continue to do is to continue to have conversations and ensure that our projects do align with the financing opportunities that they have ongoing at a point in time.
Can I just come back with a quickie then?
Yeah.
Is there any ideas of the total cost of this regeneration project?
I don't think we put a total, because there's so many different projects, isn't there? It would be difficult to say this is exactly how much we think it is going to cost, and it will, I think, evolve and change, just as the master plan actually will evolve and change. I don't know if we have even put an estimate on it, but I'll check with colleagues.
I was thinking more of a good guesstimate would be fine.
Right.
I'm not going to look
Yes.
for a tie down on that, councillor, but a good guesstimate would be absolutely good. So it's up.
We are looking at some high level cost estimates, Leader.
Right.
We did put a figure, but what we also realized is that because PCBC does not own a lot of properties,
Yes.
there will be a very high land acquisition cost as well that we have to look at, and negotiations and planning things. So when we look at just what it would cost to like construct certain projects, or just looking at the design work, that's very different to what the land acquisition cost will be. And that's why we've avoided putting a figure on it, because we might come out and say, okay, this is going to cost you 250 million, and it could probably go up somewhere else. You know, we just didn't want to commit a figure because it would not look, it would not be correct when you delve into more details.
Okay, that'd be great. But if there's any figures that you could actually send to me, I would appreciate that. If we could, thank you.
Yeah, no problem at all, Councillor Jones. I know you'll hold them to me as well. Okay, I'll bring Councillor Pratt in next, please. Councillor Pratt.
Hello, Chair. Thank you. Just a quick question. This plan looks great, and I hope it is a successful one. But what aspects are you looking at transport-wise outside of the town? So I'll use my area as I represent it, as Porthcawl residents can access the Bridgend culture, and vice versa, the Bridgend can access Porthcawl culture, such as a day at the beach.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Pratt. That's a really good question and point. And just to make you aware that as part of our proposals for Salt Lake, we are through the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal Metro Plus scheme, advancing proposals for a bus terminus to strengthen public transport links between the two towns. We think that's crucial going forward, and we are planning on bringing those details forward this year, aren't we, Delith? And I think there's some really exciting opportunities there. We're also exploring links between Porthcawl and Pyle Railway Station, and then Pyle and Porthcawl with Bridgend, and other transport infrastructure improvements across the borough that strengthen not just vehicular public transport, bus and train, but also improved active travel routes. So you will know, most of you, and have seen the work that is currently being undertaken across Bridgend to improve and strengthen the active travel infrastructure across the county borough. And again, that is not just in Bridgend, but in the west. And we're also exploring plans for further improvements in the north of the borough too. So thanks for that question, Councillor Pratt. Councillor Taylor is next, please. Councillor Christine Taylor, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can indeed. Lovely, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this forum and this the opportunity to partake in the regeneration of the master plan. It's been recognised that the conservation areas have been recognised that this is a beautiful market town with some very good architectural features, and a lot of the building, the original buildings, are from the Corella stone work. What I'd like to know is what recommendations or considerations are put in place for some of the historic buildings that are there, and one of them in particular, I think it's a Georgian house, a beautiful Georgian house, and it's on the old Merthyr Mawr Road at the entrance going into Merthyr Mawr Road, and it's on the right hand side. What are there any considerations or thoughts on these beautiful buildings and how we can preserve them?
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. That is a really important question because we need to cherish those buildings, don't we? Bridgend has an exemplary heritage in terms of its built environment, and I've been particularly proud, actually, of the work that we've done in, for example, Dunraven Place in conserving and enhancing our buildings. So we've had one of the biggest townscape heritage initiatives in the UK here in Bridgend, but there's more to do because we have got a lot of historic buildings, haven't we? So that has been part of the master planning. Delith, did you want to add anything to that?
I think not to. I mean, the main thing I suppose just to say is that as part of the master plan exercise, we've completed a conservation area appraisal review, so that we ensure that that our conservation area information guidance detail is all up to date, and that it dovetails into the consideration we've given to potential projects, so that the potential that does come out of the master plan is not at the expense of the historic fabric of the town centre. And I think rather than sort of looking at it as individual buildings or individual areas within the town centre, I think that's the primary thing that we've done, is to ensure that projects and proposals going forward don't happen at the expense of the wealth of historic buildings that we do have, and they, because they are, of many of them are of significant quality. So we do have some major transformational projects in there, but they are not to be carried out at the expense of maintaining the historic fabric. There is an area within the master plan that's identified towards that Dunraven area, the bottom of Newcastle Hill, you know, as key historic areas within the town centre, and it's to ensure that they are retained and enhanced as part of whatever projects come forward in in whatever timeframes going forward.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Taylor? I think it's a very important question.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, and to reassure you, we'll also continue to explore opportunities, won't we, Delith, for any funding that's available to continue to invest in the historic buildings, not just of Bridgend, but across the county borough. So I'm delighted that the work is continuing at pace on Maesteg Town Hall, another jewel in the crown for the county borough, and we'll continue to have historic buildings at the heart of our regeneration plans going forward. Okay, I'm just checking to see who's next. Councillor Dendy is next, please.
Thank you, Chair. I understand that these plans at the moment are sort of an overall view. We haven't really got into the nitty-gritty, but there's a few things that I know that have been a real barrier to people using our town centres efficiently. I know it's an area of contention, of debate, but public access toilets are a huge issue to allowing people to come and use the town centre freely. So I was just wondering, within these sort of overall plans, whether the nearest public and accessible toilets, including baby changing facilities, have been included in looking at these areas in question. On top of that as well, stuff like street furniture, whether it's going to be a case of there's a real precedent of having street furniture, because that is another barrier to people using Bridgend Town Centre efficiently. I know a lot of benches and things have been removed over the years, and it is becoming harder and harder for people who are elderly or have conditions and need places to sit down. I know myself, as somebody who suffers from fibromyalgia, it is very hard for me to walk from one side of Bridgend to the other without having seats available in areas along the way. Other thing as well is about bringing more sort of the green. I mean, Bridgend County does really well when it comes to recycling at home, but is there a possibility as well of looking at having the sort of split general waste and recycling bins within the Bridgend County as well? Because I think that, but I also really have to say, I really like the fact that in these plans we are looking at having more green spaces and tree planting, which I think is something that Bridgend Town Centre has been missing for quite some time. Thank you.
Thanks to those helpful comments. Who wants to respond to Councillor Dendy's contribution, please? Shruti?
Yep, sure. Thank you. Those were very useful comments. In terms of public toilets, I mean, the one location we have looked at is when we do look at Rue Shopping Centre redevelopment, it's something that we might consider as a potential location, and how it will work with, how its interface might work with Adair Street and Caroline Street, because it is important that we make it accessible. So as part of Rue Shopping Centre redevelopment, we're thinking that somewhere around there could be a potential location for public toilets and baby changing facility in terms of changing facilities or something. In terms of street furniture, that's a very good point, and I think it is street furniture and tree planting. This will be sort of an uphill task, I would say, because one of the things as consultants we noted was as well that Bridgend could use a bit more tree planting within the town centre, but because the streets are quite narrow and in terms of maintenance, there might be some issues. So we are still recommending increased tree planting, and let's say within the town square area, which could have some new trees, and then around the railway station and some more trees planted on Durban Road, also closer to Cheapside when we are going to, especially Brackla Street, when we're going to relook at all of Brackla Street in terms of active travel routes. We'll definitely look at tree planting and street furniture to go with it. So in terms of street furniture, definitely more street furniture, or more potentially movable street furniture in town square, so it becomes a multi-purpose space. Then also street furniture closer to railway station, closer to Cheapside, within Cheapside, closer to employment space or college. So all of those are locations where we're looking at street furniture that could be seating, and also could have cycle hubs which are linked to some of these areas as well. So we are trying to do that as part of the site-wide scheme, which we have called as improved green, which we're calling as green infrastructure improvements, where we are considering these components. Like you can see in the plan, it's a very high level plan. It's only identified routes where it needs improvements, but what would come as part of that is something that needs to be looked at a more detailed stage as we look at each project or a section of the street within that, if it would be feasible and possible to have trees or street furniture in that. But like I said, some of these are definitely areas we have identified, like around railway station area, Brackla Street, around Dunraven Place, Town Square. So those are the areas we're definitely looking at. So having an open space also means that you can utilize that open space in a most in a good way, I would say. Yeah.
Thanks. That's really important points and response. And just on the street furniture, one of the reasons we're considering flexible street furniture is we want to have flexible outdoor space, particularly given the far-reaching and profound impact of COVID on the way that society operates. We recognise the increased importance of the outdoor public space environment, and the need for that to be flexible to respond to societal needs, but also potentially to the needs of businesses. So that's very much at the fore of our considerations in terms of the master plan. And I should make that point now that it will continue to be so. We'll need that flexibility in the master plan, because we've seen how rapidly society has changed in the past 12 months, and that change is going to continue to happen at a rapid rate. Councillor Hussain is next, please.
Thank you very much, Leader. Thank you, Guruswamy. It was great to listen to your extensive, experience and telling us what we are doing in the next few years, if it is possible. My question is about the motorway. The connectivity on the exit 35 is great to Bridgend, but it's very poor on 36 side. Are there any consideration of improving the route on that side? And what will be possibility if we have a ring road around Bridgend, which will help us in connecting many areas which otherwise remain isolated? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question, Councillor Hussain. Delith, did you want to respond to that, please?
Yeah, I think what you've highlighted is actually incredibly challenging, and I suppose in fairness to BDP, perhaps that does fall slightly outside of the extent of the brief of the exercise that we've been carrying out here. I think what we are looking at, but is primarily part of the LDP and part of a slightly more holistic approach, is the is how the highway network responds, I suppose, in and around the town centre. A lot of work is happening in terms of our highway capacity, in terms of identifying key development sites around the whole of the centre, Bridgend town centre as a whole, and obviously beyond that. So I think what we are doing as part of the master plan is to identify whether there are any wholesale changes that need to be made to accommodate the interaction between the town centre and the wider network. So, for example, there will be, coming out of this exercise, we'll move into conducting a parking exercise, and that, whilst it's the sort of the narrower end, I suppose, of that bigger picture. It's ensuring that that the town centre is able to, has got the capacity to be able to integrate into the wider network and accommodate what transport we feel will be increasing. The increased number of cars that may or may not come from increased development sites in and around the town. Beyond that, I think the master plan itself hasn't looked significantly at how we accommodate the increase or the change in perhaps the wider highway network, I suppose. Which probably doesn't answer your question. I know, but I think.
Oh, you're very kind. Thank you very
beyond
much.
this exercise, I think.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
You give a very good attempt at answering it, though. A very full response.
Well, I think it's not something. It's not something that we want to overlook, but I think it's beyond the exercise, unfortunately. But as I said, it's not to say that it's not considered in terms of things like the increase in number of vehicles that we would expect. We are looking at where the development sites are around the town centre. So just as an example for you, if we continue to work with Bridgend College in terms of bringing that into the town centre, we've got a significant site then that lies just on the periphery of the town in terms of Cowbridge Road. Now that is something that we need to look at in more detail, but that is also something that we've looked at to try and integrate in terms of active travel, in terms of that immediate network. So that's where we have looked. But beyond that, I think it's a step further, you know, so it's an exercise, a bigger exercise again.
Yeah, I think it is, but it's a good question to ask.
It's really important, yeah.
Yeah, and we need to continue to assess that in terms of the accessibility of the town, and that's not just by rail and cycling and walking, but also it will continue to obviously to be via the motor car for lots of visitors to the town. So thanks for that question, Councillor Hussain, much appreciated. Okay, Councillor Smith is next, please.
Yes, I'd like to respond to Altaf's mention of the possibility of a ring road. I think that's a very interesting proposal. And I remember in years gone by, under Oggur Borough Council, I think it was Mr. Dudridge was the, at that time, I don't know, or was he with Oggur or was he with Middlemorgan Highways? I can't remember. Other people. Right, and he had a proposal that there should be a ring road which would consist of, which is there basically. We could just designate it as a ring road, but it consists of the inner bypass, the Cross Valley Link Road, and then Tremaines Road, and then coming back down Coychurch Road past the new Asda, then turning right by the college, and you're back on the inner bypass. So that could be classed as a ring road, and if it were designated, I think there'd be some potential in that, because you imagine now an electric minibus going round that circuit in both directions. It would have the effect of linking the bus station with the train station. It would also have the effect of linking all our different car parks together, and also linking different shops. It would link Asda with small Tesco's, for example. So that's interesting. If we were in France, we would call that the outer périphérique, wouldn't we? And then there's potential for an inner périphérique, which would consist of the Rue, Queen Street, Market Street and Knowlton Street. So I think those two proposals together are very, very interesting, and we ought to look into them.
Just double the budget, Councillor Smith. Okay, I'll
Well,
bring
they
it.
already exist, so it just needs some paint and some signage, really.
Yeah.
Plus a couple of vehicles to do the electric minibus circuit.
Yeah.
Preferably free of charge. Jump on and jump off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Councillor
very
Smith.
much.
Thanks, Councillor Hussain. Councillor Young is next.
Yeah, Councillor Smith is absolutely right. The actual ring road was in actual fact envisioned as the inner bypass, as we call it. Then you had the Cross Valley Link, then you had Tremaines Road, and then coming down to the college on that link road. This was actually developed in the 60s by Middlemorgan County Council, overseen by John Dudridge towards the end, but it was done in such a piecemeal fashion that even now I'm wondering whether it's actually serving the purpose. I think the stretch, for instance, that comes over the top of Tremaines Road is probably not able to take the strain much now. But having said that, that is the ring road as envisaged in the 60s. I think overall, with this particular plan, I've heard mention of Bridgend actually being a market town. I think, unfortunately for us, the advances, as it were, in society has overtaken us with that, and Bridgend is no longer a market town. And I think we lost the market town link when the market, the live stock market actually went to Cowbridge, and that was a lot of years ago. Before, for instance, the Cross Valley Link was built. But I think what is being demonstrated in the master plan is an admirable plan towards Bridgend truly becoming a county town that we can be proud of. The links, for instance, around Bridgend railway station and making it a modal hub. There are also plans for Cardiff Airport, for instance, to include Bridgend as a hub, as a rail link towards the airport. I think there will be improvements to the Maesteg line, the Llinvi line, which will make Bridgend more accessible. And what I mean by the improvements, I mean increases in services. And in addition to that, the inclusion of shuttle buses, for instance, from the east side of the railway station at a regular interval makes it truly a modal hub for transport. But let's not forget the active travel element in that as well, because we've got ideal situations to improve our active travel situations on that side of the railway track, which is deficient at the moment, and people are not best served by attempting to gain access to the railway station on foot from that side of the railway tracks. So I think overall, I think this master plan is to be welcomed, if not trumpeted. And I'd like to also add my thanks to Shruti and her team for an excellent plan and an excellent demonstration of how we can take Bridgend forward and make it fit for the 21st century. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Young. I think we'll bring this item to a close now, because it's the skies have gone dark outside, so we've given this this meeting a very long given this report a very comprehensive discussion, and I wanted to finally thank once again Shruti for her contribution. It is really appreciated, and we look forward to you returning in person at some stage, Shruti, in the future, to see the fruits of your labour, and I'm sure you'll be very pleased when you do come back to Bridgend, because these are indeed very, very exciting plans for our town, and you've played a crucial role in that, and you've heard the support from all members who've spoken today for these plans, and I'm sure, given the level of support that we've heard, that they're plans that together we can progress. So take care of yourself, and hopefully we will see you again. And thank you very much, Delith, for your work as well, and the work of your team on this. And I'm sure at some point the forum would want a further report on this, and a report on how we are progressing the plans for the town. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you, Leader.
And now we'll move on.
Thank you. Sorry, didn't realise my microphone was muted. No, thank you very much. Yeah, and I will keep in touch with the BCBC team to understand what's happening. I'm sure most of the proposals will be realised in the next decade. Yeah.
We'll make sure of it. Thank you, Shruti. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is the report of the monitoring officer, and it is on the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021, and I will hand straight over to Kelly. Very warm welcome to Kelly, please.
Thank you, Leader. For those of you who haven't met me before, I'm Kelly Watson and I'm the Monitoring Officer here in Bridgend. I'm here today to update you on the Local Government and Elections Wales Act, as it now is. It's had royal assent. This is a report that we took to Council last month, and we felt it was timely to bring it to yourselves so that the community councils could be fully aware of what's going on. As you may be aware, this bill has been going through the Senedd for quite some time, and it finally received royal assent in January 2021. There are numerous provisions within the legislation, and they're all going to come online at different times. If you've read the paper, you'll see that the bill introduces a number of reforms to local government, including reforming electoral arrangements, introducing a general power of competence, reforming public participation in local government. There are reforms around governance and leadership. There's reform of performance and governance regime, and there's also then some key provisions in relation to collaborative working, which Bridgend are heavily involved with the Cardiff City deal proposals. So as I've said, the bill has now received royal assent. We are waiting for a substantial amount of supplementary guidance and regulations. We anticipate some of the provisions in the Act are going to come into force this April-May time, but the majority are going to come online in May 2022 in line with the next local government elections. You'll also see from your papers that we've produced an action plan which shows how we intend to implement the provisions in the Act. And if you have a chance to look at that, you will see that some of them are specifically targeted at town and community councils. I don't propose today to take you through all those measures that are applicable to yourselves. For one, as I said, the devil is in the detail, and we don't have all the detail at this stage. But what I do propose is that once we know the detail of what's expected of Bridgend County Borough Council and of the town and community councils, I can come out and do some bespoke training as appropriate to your community councils and the effects it will have on you. Leader, I wasn't going to say any more. I'm obviously prepared to take any questions the members may have and help in any way I can.
That is just the right length on on your introduction to that report, Kelly. Very helpful. I know that due to my lax chairperson skills, we are tight on time. But the report has been circulated to everyone. I'm sure most members have had an opportunity to read it. So there's an opportunity now for questions if members have any questions at all. And as the monitoring officer has explained, she's more than happy to talk to individual town and community councils about this. What we'll also look to do as well is see if we can organise some sessions, perhaps, where there'll be an opportunity to invite town and community council members along and talk through the details as and when, because it is a landmark act. It does affect so much of what we do in local government in Wales at a town and community council and at a county borough level. And as the monitoring officer has explained, some of that detail has yet to be confirmed, and the detail is always the most important part of any piece of legislation like this. And of course, we will keep colleagues updated, our partners in town and community councils, as and when we receive those details. Are there any questions or comments for Kelly as our monitoring officer, please? No, okay, well, the recommendation is that the forum receives and considers this report. Do I have a mover that?
Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Bramwell.
I'll second that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. We've got a very strong team there of movers and seconders. So is everyone in agreement with that, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain.
Yes, Chair.
Excellent. And as I say, please don't hesitate to get in touch if you've got any questions or queries at all. And that was the last item on the agenda. Was there anything that you wanted to add? I think there was, wasn't there? So that's the last of the scheduled reports. But I know that Kelly, as monitoring officer, has one verbal item that she's asked to bring to the forum, and I have, as chair, agreed for her to do that. So over to you, please, Kelly.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to make town and community councillors aware that we are organising probably 2 training sessions at the end of March. They're going to be code of conduct training sessions, and they're going to be delivered by an external provider. County Borough councillors had the training in the last few weeks, and I'm sure most of them will agree it was very beneficial. very thorough in the presentation. So in the next week or so, we'll be sending some dates around to town and community councils, and I'd encourage as many people as possible to sign up for the training, because it is, you know, it is essential that you're aware of your requirements under the Code of Conduct.
Okay, and I just echo the importance of that. Unfortunately, the monitoring officer does spend a lot of time dealing with complaints and issues about some of our town and community councils, and we want to keep those issues to a minimum. We want to make sure that everyone is aware of their duties and responsibilities, this is an opportunity for members, new and experienced, to refresh themselves on the Code of Conduct. And the training is completely free. We've decided we'll cover the cost of that training, now, of course, as with these meetings, the training takes place virtually, so we hope it will be more convenient for more colleagues from our town and community councils to attend. Councillor Hussain, you wanted to ask a question, please.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. That is an excellent idea, and I think I would go a little bit further. You know, these standing orders for the community councillors, we don't know much about these. I would be grateful if both councillors and clerks are involved in this, about these standing orders. That will be a way forward to, you know, checking, balancing how these are run. I'll be grateful. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hussain. Kelly, please.
Yeah, I think the issue is, Councillor Hussain, is that obviously we've got quite a lot of town and community councils, and they've all got slightly different standing orders, and, you know, as much as I try, I can't be familiar with everybody's. So the best place for advice is obviously through your own clerk, and your clerk, they can contact myself for some guidance, but they can also contact One Voice Wales, who are the body who would help the town and community councils.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Kelly. Thank you.
Yeah,
grateful.
Thanks very much for that question, Councillor Hussain. And that brings us to the end of the agenda. So thank you all for your attendance and your contributions today. It's been a very constructive meeting, and lots of really helpful questions and contributions from our colleagues on our town and community councils. I look forward to seeing you all at the next meeting, and that is in the calendar, isn't it, Mark? Thank you for your attendance, and we will see you again shortly. Good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, folks. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much.